What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith, and welcome back to The Nerdy Narrative. On this channel, I like to share with you all of the things that I read, and I read in all of the genres. Well, I don't really delve too much into mystery or romance, but I might eventually. I do have a mystery, a cozy mystery, that is floating around on my TBR this month that I'm going to get to. And that author announced that he has another one that is on Kindle. So I will definitely be looking to include mysteries. Now, romance, yeah, I make no promises there. I mostly stick to science fiction, fantasy, horror for the most part, and then I also like to dabble in classics, literary fiction, and nonfiction. Today's episode of Fun is all about what I read this week, what I'm still working on, and what I plan to get to next. As far as what I read last week, let's start with short stories. I did read a couple. The first one I read, or reread rather, is A Chicken by Clarice Lispector, which is found in her Complete Stories collection that I've been working on for a few months now. I reread it for a purpose, and that purpose you will have to wait until August to see. Hint, hint, keep an eye on the Codex Cantina's channel. The second short story I read is Dreaming of Kimchi by Banana Yoshimoto. This one was really good. The way it started out, I didn't think I was going to like it. It started out with the narrator picking up a magazine, and she is drawing your attention to the fact that there are always articles about husbands cheating on their wives. And this particular one in this magazine that she has is saying, keep in mind, men who have extramarital affairs rarely leave their wives for the other woman. So if you can cope with that, or you can learn to live with it, then a married man just might be the thing for you. So that just really put me off. That was like the second paragraph, and I'm thinking, I am not going to like this. And I was very, very wrong. I was very, very wrong. I loved it. Again, more on that later. Hint, hint. Keep an eye on the Codex Cantina's channel. And then, in keeping with the whole short story thing that we've got going here, I did finish this collection of stories, Nocturne by HBDF. Absolutely loved it. I think last week when I checked in with y'all, I might have had one left, and it was so good. I loved this collection. Absolutely loved it. I loved the way the author wrote. I loved that her style for each story was not the same. It just made it really refreshing and interesting. And while it's not a bad thing that an author who has a great writing style keeps that writing style in all of their works, when you're reading a collection of short stories, they can kind of all sound the same if that's the case. So I really enjoyed this collection. I really wanted to just read one per day, but I couldn't. I just blazed through it. Getting into books, I finished Song of Susanna by Stephen King, which is book 6 in the Dark Tower series. And guys, I have to be honest with you, I loved this book way more than Wolves of the Kala. Wolves of the Kala is still my lowest ranked book in that Dark Tower series. I love this one. I am so sad that so many of my friends either read this one and then fell off of the series. It put them off of the series completely. Others read it and were very bored by it. I do understand that that could be because our path to this Dark Tower that we've been on since The Gunslinger didn't go anywhere in this book at all. We just sort of went on a side quest, but I loved it. That could be because, of course, by the title, it's about Susanna. Susanna is my favorite character. I do love all the characters, to be fair, in this story, specifically the quartet, but Susanna has always been just a breakout favorite of mine since she made her appearance in the second book. And while the narrative maybe didn't move forward, I do think we got some information that is very key, very important to what is going to happen with our characters in the final book. I am about to die to read that book and get to the conclusion At the same time, I'm sad that it's almost over. And then right on the heels of finishing Song of Susanna, I finished Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie, a standalone, the first of the standalones in the First Law world. I really loved this book. Joe Abercrombie and his characters, he just does so well. But this book constantly kept me off kilter. It kept turning on its head. There were so many unexpected turns and surprises and just things I didn't see coming. There were a couple I really should have seen, but y'all, when you're just constantly kept off balance because of things that are happening, you just really don't know what to expect, and you stop trying to expect anything because my mind was just like, I cannot keep up with all of the craziness that is happening, and I loved it. Now, I'm not happy with the ending, and I do know that's how Abercrombie is. He doesn't give you the ending necessarily that you're wanting. With my experience reading The First Law, you are very unlikely to get a happy ending. You're very unlikely to get closure with all of the characters. I expected that, but there is a particular character that was so interesting in this narrative. And he didn't show up a whole lot, just enough to just have this really big build up for, you know, he's going to be there at the end and something epic is going to happen. We're getting to that big finale at the end and I'm like, okay, here he is. Something big's going to happen. And it didn't. I was so let down by the lack of action on this character's behalf. If you've read this book and you want to know who it is, hit me up in the comments down below or DM me on Discord or Twitter, any of my socials, and I will tell you who it is and see if we agree. I was so disappointed, but I should have realized Abercrombie was going to get me. The thing about this book, it is straight up a revenge story. Unlike the First Law trilogy, this one has a lot of plot to it. With it being a revenge story, you kind of have an idea of where it's gonna go. It did get boring. It did go on a little bit too long in my opinion. There are 7 parts and part 6 was just at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this to just be over. But I did enjoy it. I am looking forward to getting into the heroes and seeing what takes place in that. And then finally, the book that I finished last night on my trusty Kindle here is The Goners by L. Stevenson. This is the first book in the Boatmore Butcher trilogy. So, it's the first book. Means there's going to be 3 by the word trilogy. So, with that being said, it's a serial killer book. It's the first in the series. So that means either the serial killer doesn't get caught, someone takes up the mantle, or a copycat. Something's going to carry over into book 2. Okay, so by telling you that, I can tell you that I did not sleep well after finishing this book. Horror stories that are based on real life, things that could happen in real life, really get to me. But I finished this one late last night and I'm just thinking afterwards, what kind of statistics are there about serial killers? Like how many could be out there? What about the ones that exist that we don't know about? And I just scared the absolute stuffing out of myself. But this book was so good. I need books 2 and 3 right now. L. Stevenson wrote a fantastic book. This book caught me up right in the first chapter. The level of suspense and just the thrill and just the rush of adrenaline that he just kept, it was an ebb and flow. The way that he designed his chapters, you know, just how we met our group of characters. The next chapter would be us looking on, watching what is happening, what our serial killer is doing. The characters, I loved our group of characters. It always amazes me when an author can have you relating to and falling in love with a group of characters in a book that's on the shorter side of things. I could keep talking about this one, but I won't. I will do a separate little mini review for it, so be looking for that coming very soon in the next few days. But I absolutely loved it. I cannot wait to read more by L. Stevenson. And then moving over into what I'm still working on. So I am about 100 pages from finishing the Psychics Memoirs by Ryan Hyatt. This is a science fiction thriller. It takes place in sort of a post-apocalyptic world, but not quite. They've just had some disasters. They had a huge earthquake hit. And this takes place over in Los Angeles, California. And there's an investigation. We've got 2 detectives that are investigating this psychic. Supposedly this teenage psychic has the ability to save the world. Because of the earthquake, all the damage it caused, it wrecked the economy. They're in what they are calling the Greater Depression. And somehow this psychic, this teenager named Alice, has the answers. The sci-fi that's involved is fun. It's easily understood. We've got a little bit of the multiverse mentioned here, a few things that are happening that are kind of interesting in that way. We've got some fun robotic tech. Mr. Y is hysterical. That's all I'm going to tell you about him. And then we have some scary tech. The Liberators, huge mechs that are helping to try and keep the peace and order because, of course, there are riots, gang activity, just all orphans roaming. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's also a lot of real life political things happening, and that part of it I'm not so much interested in. I love political maneuverings in books, but I don't like real life politics. With the earthquake, there were some changes that occurred to the different political parties, and then we've got a new party on the horizon, and it kind of feels like one of these political parties are the bad guys, which would kind of make sense, and I probably wouldn't mind that so much, but I am enjoying it. It is a fast read. I really hope to finish it today so I can let you guys know my overall thoughts coming up next week. And yesterday I started my reread of Winds of Strife by Yuji Gutman. There is a read along that is happening over on my Discord, so if this is one you picked up and you want to read it with some other friends, you can go down to the description box and join the Discord for that. But this one I started yesterday. I am in chapter 1, so I'm about 35 pages in, but I'm listening to the audiobook version. And the audiobook narrator is Amanda Lee Cobb. And y'all remember that name. I don't know how many audiobooks that she may have narrated, but I can tell you I will be looking for more by her. I love her. When I first listened to a sample to make sure that the copy that I received for review worked, she was doing an accent for one of the characters and I thought she was British. She's not British, but if you like Kate Redding, one of the narrators that's very popular for the Stormlight Archives, but if you like Kate, I think you will love Amanda Lee Cobb. She has done absolutely amazing so far. She has totally leveled up this experience for me so far. It's almost like I've never read this book before. She's just breathed a whole new life into it with the way that she portrays the characters and just how she tells the story. I am loving it. But I'll keep you guys posted as I continue through the audiobook. I haven't met all the characters yet to hear all of her voices that she does, so I'll keep you posted as I meet the characters and see how she does. But in other exciting news regarding Winds of Strife and the audiobook is available July 20th, and I do believe you can pre-order it in Audible. But the exciting part of that is the author is doing a giveaway. This giveaway will have 2 winners, and the 2 winners can choose between a Kindle or a 12-month membership to Audible. That is huge. Guys, I will have the link to that giveaway in the description box down below. Please make sure you click on that and get registered. Definitely get in on that, you guys. Like I said, I do plan to finish the Psychic Memoirs today, and that means I will need to be starting a couple of more reads. So, of course, my next read is going to be my patron pick of the month, A Plague of Giants by Kevin Hearn. This one will most definitely be getting started today. And then to just break up these 2 fantasy reads I'll have going, I will also be adding in some horror to the mix, and that will be Tome by Ross Jeffrey. I just realized I neglected to mention, but The Goners by Elle Stevenson and Tome by Ross Jeffrey will be fulfilling prompts for the Indie Accords Readathon that is happening this month, that is hosted by Lana from Lauren Lullabies. But the Indie Accords Readathon is a readathon where we are reading indie and self-published and boutique published books. So the Goners fulfilled a prompt and Tome will be fulfilling another prompt. But I'm also very excited to read this one by Ross. I recently read and reviewed Ross's latest release, Only the Stains Remain, and that just cemented my love for him as an author and his writing style. I was so glad to have another one of his published works on my shelf to get into. Whenever I read a book that just resonates with my soul, just my entire being, I want to read more by that person. I want to keep that feeling going. So I was so glad to have Tome sitting on my shelf. Tome is the prequel to Juniper, which I read last year. I'm just very excited to get into this one and see what I think. And there you have it, guys. That's everything that I read, what I am still reading, and what I plan to stick my nose into next. For those of you watching that are participating in the Indie Accords Readathon, how are you guys doing? How many prompts have you completed? Have you discovered any new indie authors that you have fallen in love with that have become an auto buy? I have seen a few people read a book by an author and then throw their TBR out the window to continue the series. That just really makes my day. I love when folks give indie authors a shot and realize how good they are. There is such a stigma attached to an independent author or self-published that I just wish we could do something about. Guys, I hope you had an amazing week of reading. I hope you are having a great day. I hope you have an even better weekend. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.